vertical. So we want to use a table, but we don't want to use Aunt Millie's custom mold, dining room table, or we don't want to go on the floor or the carpet because that's going to be hard on your back. So here's a little idea that can help a lot. What we're going to do is actually get a 3/4 inch plywood, and again, remember, we're out in the garage, so this is where we're going to do all our messy stuff, but we want to make sure we cover it with some 6mm plastic, black plastic. The way that I'm supporting it is with these sawhorses, and it's about belt height, and that makes it easier so we're not reaching down and over. So we're going to go ahead and pull this around, and this gives us a nice big table on which to work from. And you're going to notice as we cut, we're going to need some tools. Now, we'd like to break these into the type of tools that make sense for the project. And one of the things that we're going to show you within the video here is we're going to show you how to use carpenter's squares. So we're going to need some carpenter's squares. We're going to need some knives. We'll also need a pad of paper and some pencils. Also, some measuring devices, some measuring tapes and so forth. But last but not least, we're going to need a lot of rubber bands, number 10 rubber bands. And we're going to show you how to go ahead and pre-cut the entire room of wall covering before you get to the wall. The actual job is only as good as some of the tools we need, and there are some basic tools we have to have. Well, we're going to try to break these down to groups that'll be very easy for you to understand. And one of the first things we have to do is disassemble the room. So here's our little trick. We're going to use a technique called bagging and tagging. Take Ziploc bags and a felt marker, and we're going to go ahead and mark the individual bags what's going to go inside. In this case, vents, switch plates, and then we put everything into one bag. Now, the tool of choice that I like to use is called a 10-in-1. Now, one of the reasons why is because you're going to see through the entire project how we use this in so many different ways for prepping, pulling nails. It even has a built-in screwdriver here so that we can go ahead and remove any type of vents or switch plates or any kind of things that are off the wall, so we're not running back and forth. So this also has a hammer built in, so if you have to knock back anything, scrape, dig out any type of old caulking. So having a good tool like this gives you a lot of versatility. We're also going to need things like our trash bag. Now this will be for making our aprons, for also delivering any type of trash we can get rid of out of the room, and of course some masking tape. These are the essentials for disassembling and making sure that you can do a proper prep job. Basic preparation is really key to everything, and I know it seems daunting, but these are investment tools that you can use for years and years to come, regardless if you're painting, faux finishing, or wallpapering. Well, one of the things we have to do is make sure all the grease and everything is off the surfaces. So a couple little wizard tricks and tools that we need to have. This is an extension pole which we'll use to both roll primer and to use for any type of sealers or to apply any type of paste on the wall. We're also going to need a sanding swivel head here and some sanding screens. I like to use 80 to 120 grit for sanding. This is designed to knock down any peaks off the wall. Once you have that done, we definitely should clean up a little bit, and so we're going to go ahead and use our color-coded buckets. Now I like to use orange or red for cleaning because we're going to use a little bit of TSP, and also I'd like to have these yellow and green scrubby sponges and maybe even a Scotch-Brite handle sponge, so it'll allow me to either scrub the surface or to abrade the surface. Now once you've cleaned, you definitely have to rinse. So here's a little trick. Again, I like to use color-coded buckets. Blue is going to be for our rinsing, and we're going to have some white vinegar, and of course these towel sponges work really, really well for cleaning wallpaper, wiping up after yourself. We're also going to need a stack of maybe old towels. We're going to use these for drying and cleaning, as well as we're going to use them for putting underneath buckets so we don't spill over the carpet. Last but not least, but probably the simplest tool that we can use to do any type of spackling is going to be our patch stick. Now this is going to be used, it's a spackle that actually works like a deodorant stick, and you can actually just go ahead and roll it up, and then we have our own built-in scraper right in here. And this is some of the basic tools that we need to clean, prepare, and make sure we're going to have a quality job to last for years. Wall covering. Well, in this case, wall covering removal. I know it's a real daunting task, but I tell you, I have used this secret wizard solution for many, many years, and you'll remove 1, 5, 10. You let it set long enough, it'll dissolve anything, honestly. But a couple of things. Let's talk about some of the tools. We're going to need a perforation tool. We should go ahead and poke holes. This is called Paper Tiger, and this is the three-headed version. Get 2 of these. Why? Wax on, wax off. You'll get done a little quicker. You also need a paper scraper, which is designed to actually remove between the layers of the wall and the wallpaper, so I like that tool. Some duct tape to cover over electrical, switch openings and switch plates so you don't get water inside. We'll also need some plastic, a half a mil, enough to go around the room at least twice over. We'll need a pump sprayer, that's a tool, plastic, and this will help apply the solution I'm going to give you, as well as we need some buckets. We'll need a 5-gallon bucket, and we'll need a cleanup bucket with a sponge and some scrubby pads. Now, really simple household chemicals. This is not a lot to have, but it's enough and it's what we need to do the actual removal solution. We'll need about 3 or 4 bottles of wallpaper remover, 22-ounce bottle, maybe about a quart of our fabric softener, maybe about 2 cups of our white vinegar, and also we'll need some baking soda. And we'll give you that recipe a bit later, but I'm just trying to get you to gather up the tools we'll need to actually remove the wallpaper so you can be successful with the new installation of any kind of wall coverings that you want to do around the house. Well, we've got our surface cleaned and we've got it spackled, but regardless if you're doing any type of wall covering, there's some sort of primer or some sort of sizing that needs to be applied. Now, we're going to go into a little bit later, but some basic equipment we're going to need. We're going to need some drop cloths. We're going to need some towels for cleaning up. We're going to also need a sponge and fresh water. Change the water often, okay? That's one of the reasons I like little buckets like this, because I can change them in the sink and not have to worry about dumping big old 5-gallon buckets out. Also, we're going to use prep tools for cutting in, such as our grip it and loader tray, or a good standard 3-inch angled sash brush. Other specialty things we should have are extension poles. Now, I like this one because we can actually go ahead and adjust it in any length that we need as we're working around the surface. Also, you might want to have a tray like this that are disposable, but you know what? Here's a better idea, and I use this for many, many years. Use a 5-gallon bucket, and you're going to use a paint grate like this. And to make it easier to move around, we're going to use a garden planter and put a little bit of pipe insulation on here. It acts like a bumper, so instead of having to pick up the tool, I can just move it around. Of course, we need a bucket with a lid in case we need to stop, because the enemy of primer is air. So we want to make sure we always have a lid on there so it won't dry out. And last but not least, but what this is all about is priming the surface correctly. So having good quality acrylic primer or an oil sealer, depending on the surface that you're actually applying to, is going to ensure that quality job that will last for years and years. We're going to start papering. Oh my goodness, we're actually going to get something on the wall? Yeah, well, we're right at the very end, and I want to share with you the last set of tools and really give you an explanation of why and how we're going to use them. First thing is if you notice, I am wearing a pouch, and it has a belt with a snap clip belt buckle. I also, if you notice, are using leather pouches. This one is the one we're going to actually use to have our tools, so we have our brushes, our cutting tools, and so forth. This one over here is actually where I have my snap-off blades. Now, since I'm here, let's talk about this blade. This is probably the most important tool, yet it is the least expensive tool, but it does the most for us. This is a snap-off blade knife. Now, again, it's plastic with a injector here for your thumb. But the way this works is that we want to snap it in the pouch. We never snap a blade against the wall. This is a major, major safety issue. Do not snap the blades against the floor, against the wall, against anything but inside your pouch. And the reason for that is that we want to make sure the blades are dropped inside of this pouch, and we're not having blades all over the place for the little ones to step on these very, very sharp razor tips. Now, these are very inexpensive tips, and so we want to remember, keep them very sharp, so we snap the blades over and over again. We have lots of knives. This is the inexpensive part. The wallpaper is the thing we really want to make sure is going to be applied appropriately to the wall. So let me show you how to set this up. I have my clean tools over here, the ones that are all got the new blades. The one that I'm going to be using goes right here at the top, and all the dead soldiers, the ones that are used up, go right down here. So we have the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's the way I like to set this up. Now, here's a couple other tools. Smoothing devices, okay? This is a wallpaper brush. This one is 30 years old. Oh yeah, just because it's old doesn't mean that you have to throw it away. I love this tool. I get used to it. I can use it many, many different ways. And I'm going to show you the process of using a brush. Do not use a sponge. Do not use a squeegee. We use a brush. Why? Because it eliminates all the air. You see, what holds the wallpaper to the wall is a vacuum when it's wet. But what holds it to the wall when it's dry is the adhesive. And by the way, we always keep our tools with us, so we're going to put this right inside the pouch. Now, let's talk about smoothing devices. This is called a float. It is not called a squeegee. This is how we actually set seams. We can smooth this up and down by applying very gentle pressure. You're going to see me use this quite a bit. We're also going to be using our broad knife. Now, the broad knife itself is used to actually trim and cut. It is what we call the protector. And I'm going to show you how to use this. Now, this is a 4-inch handle, 4-inch width, and also it's going to give me protection from actually maybe cutting into myself. And you're going to see how that works. So you got to work cautiously when you're working with tools like this. Now, obviously, we're going to need a measuring device. So we need a measuring tape as we work. And last but not least, but probably one of the most important tools, is our plumb line. Now, this tool in particular is going to help us with the 3 laws of wall covering. And I'm going to share with you that just in a moment.